Every culture on Earth has told stories to explain the dark. The thing that scratches at the window, the shape at the tree line that isn't a shadow, the voice that calls your name from somewhere it shouldn't. We all know the greatest hits: vampires, werewolves, ghosts. But step outside the mainstream monster canon, and folklore gets a lot stranger. And a lot more disturbing. These are creatures born from real fears: famine, plague, grief, guilt, the dread of losing a child in the night. 10 of them. Some might already live in your nightmares. Let's begin. 1. The Gashadokuro. Japan, picture a battlefield after the fighting ends. No one comes to bury the dead. Bodies are left where they fell, picked apart by scavengers, bleaching in the sun for years. According to Japanese folklore, when enough people die like this, forgotten, unburied, full of rage at the injustice of it, their bones don't just lie still. Their resentment fuses them together into something new. A skeletal giant standing many times the height of a person, built from hundreds of corpses at once. This is the Gashadokuro, a name that roughly translates to starving skeleton. It wanders the countryside after midnight, and it moves in near total silence. The only warning is a strange ringing that starts in your ears moments before it appears. If it catches a lone traveler, it doesn't crush them. It bites the head clean off and drinks what's left. The oldest version of this legend is tied to an 11th century rebellion. A sorceress supposedly conjured a giant skeleton from the war dead to take revenge on the capital. Centuries later, artists turned that image into the Gashadokuro we know today. Proof that some monsters are grown not from imagination alone, but from history's unburied guilt. 2. The Manananggal, Philippines. By day, she's just a woman, often described as striking, ordinary, unremarkable. Neighbors might see her at the market. Nobody suspects a thing. At night, everything changes. Her torso tears away from her legs at the waist, sprouts bat-like wings, and takes flight, trailing her own intestines beneath her as she goes, while her severed lower half stands waiting in the grass. This is the Manananggal, one of the most infamous entries in Filipino folklore's Aswang family of monsters. She hunts pregnant women specifically, gliding to rooftops and using a long, hollow tongue to reach down through the thatch and drain both blood and unborn children before the household ever wakes. Some tellings say she travels with a small bird called a tik-tik, and the rule is chilling in its simplicity. The louder the bird's call, the farther away she is. Silence means she's close. If you want to kill her, folklore is specific. Find her abandoned lower half before sunrise and coat the exposed flesh in salt, ash, or crushed garlic. If she can't rejoin before dawn, sunlight finishes the job. It's a rare monster myth that hands ordinary villagers a fighting chance, as long as they're brave enough to go looking for half a body in the dark. 3. The Kuchisake-Onna. Japan. She appears on empty streets at dusk. A beautiful woman with long black hair, her lower face hidden behind a surgical mask or a fan. She stops you. She asks one question. Am I pretty? Say yes, and she pulls the mask away to reveal a mouth slit from ear to ear, a grin carved straight through both cheeks. Then she asks again, even like this? Answer wrong. In some versions, any answer at all. And she finishes the job with the scissors she carries, giving you a matching smile. The Kuchisake-Onna, the slit-mouthed woman, has roots that stretch back centuries in Japanese ghost lore. But she became a nationwide phenomenon in 1979, when reports of sightings spread so fast through schoolyards that police patrols were organized to walk children home. Newspapers covered it as real news. It's one of the clearest examples in the world of a folklore creature evolving in real time, jumping from whispered legend to modern urban panic in a matter of weeks. And she's still a fixture of Japanese horror media today. 4. The Nuckelavee, Orkney, Scotland. Of all the creatures in Scottish folklore, islanders on Orkney reserved a special dread for this one. The Nuckelavee looks, at a glance, like a monstrous rider on a monstrous horse. Except the two aren't separate. Rider and horse share skin, fused into a single nightmare with no hide covering any of it. Every muscle, every vein, every raw nerve is exposed to the air. It has one enormous yellow eye, arms that drag nearly to the ground, and a breath so foul that crops wither and livestock sicken wherever it passes. Fishermen blamed it for droughts, plagues, and failed harvests. Unlike most monsters confined to forests or graveyards, the Nuckelavee was said to roam freely. With exactly one weakness: it cannot cross fresh running water. A stream between you and it was the only guaranteed safety. Folklorists have pointed out how well this creature fits its landscape, a place of harsh coastal winters, where the sea gives life and just as easily takes it away. Skinless and unable to hide anything, the Nuckelavee is often read as the very idea of nature with all mercy stripped off. 5. The Jorōgumo, Japan. A binding bride is a fitting nickname for this one. In Edo period Japanese legend, a spider can live for hundreds of years, and upon reaching great age, gain the power to take the form of a beautiful, elegant woman. She plays a baiwa, a traditional Japanese instrument, to lure travelers into her home, and binds them in silk threads disguised as delicate robes. In some versions tied to real waterfalls, she's said to be the spirit haunting the pool beneath, appearing to fishermen resting on the rocks and pulling their catch, and eventually the fishermen themselves, into her web below the surface. What makes the Jorōgumo distinct from a simple monster is the seduction. She's not chasing you through the dark. You're invited in, offered comfort, warmth, company. By the time you notice the thread around your wrist isn't silk from a robe at all. It's already too late. 6. The Rokurokubi, Japan, 650 to 745. By daylight, she might be your neighbor, your innkeeper, a woman you'd pass without a second glance. But while she sleeps, her neck stretches, sometimes silently, sometimes with a sound like tearing paper, carrying her head far from her body to drift through the house, peer through windows, or, in the more dangerous tellings, feed. The Rokurokubi is unusual among Japanese yokai because the person often doesn't know what she is. Some legends frame it as an inherited curse, others as punishment for a broken promise or a past sin catching up in an unnatural form. Male versions exist in a handful of regional tales. But the classic image, a woman asleep in one room while her head roams the halls alone, remains one of the more purely uncanny ideas in the entire yokai catalog, precisely because nothing about her seems wrong until the moment it very much is. 6 creatures, 6 cultures, 6 different ways of putting a shape to the same handful of human fears. Hunger, loss, deception, the dark itself. That's what folklore monsters have always really been. Not just things to be scared of, but stories a community tells itself to make sense of the unthinkable. So the next time something moves at the edge of your vision on a quiet street, you might want to check twice before you answer any questions.